Module 3 continues with more on event configuration. With regard to the OpenNMS etc eventconf.xml file, this file opens with a global element whose security child element defines which event fields may not be overridden in the body of an event submitted via any eventd listener. The ellipses indicate that there are more elements in the encasing XML. The content of each event file element specifies the path of a tributary file whose contents will be read and incorporated into the event configuration. These paths are resolved relative to the OpenNMS home/etc directory. Absolute paths are not accepted. The order of the event files and the event definitions within those files is important. The tributary files listed at the end of eventconf.xml contain catch-all event definitions. When slotting your own event definitions, take care not to place them below these catch-all files. Otherwise, your definitions will be effectively unreachable. This is a basic event definition within an event tributary file. While some event definitions may look complex, they are fairly simple to understand. Each event requires the following elements: a UEI, which is a unique event identifier, a string that uniquely identifies the event's type. UEIs are typically formatted in the style of a URI, but the only requirement is that they start with UEI, period. An event label, a short, static label that summarizes the gist of all instances of this event. A description is a long-form description of all instances of this event. You can use HTML formatting to format the body of an event text. Log message, a long-form log message that describes this event, optionally including expansions of fields and parameters so that the value is tailored to the event at hand. It includes the destination attribute, which will be discussed shortly. Severity, a severity for this event type. Possible values range from cleared to critical. More on this in a moment. The event ID, a numeric identifier used to look up a specific event in the Horizon system. This was covered previously. Optionally, you might have alarm data. This is an optional field, but if it is provided for an event, Horizon will create, update, or clear alarms for events of that type according to the alarm data specifics. This will be covered later. Note the use of the HTML entity &LT This represents the less than symbol. This is an XML document, and a less than symbol would normally represent the beginning of an element tag. But at this point, the less than symbol is being used to represent the opening to the HTML paragraph element. Note the P and the greater than symbol that follow. Therefore, to avoid confusing XML, the HTML entity value is used. OpenNMS will interpret this properly. The log message dest attribute defines how the event is treated. Here are the possible values. Login display will log the event in the database and display it in the web UI. Over 95% of the predefined events use this destination. Log only will log the event in the database, but will not display it in the web UI. Suppress will neither log the event in the database nor display it in the web UI. Only one OpenNMS predefined event does this. It is for the Netgear Pro SafeMart switch, and it references the event config update start. Do not persist will not log the event in the database, but will send it to daemons that are listening for this type of event, such as those being used to generate notifications. Note that Event D and Alarm D do not process this type of event. Discard traps applies only to traps coming in via trap D. This will cause trap D to discard the trap without creating an event. Other daemons that are listening for this type of event will not receive the event. Events not related to trap D will be processed as if they are marked with suppress. The best way to look at severities is as follows. Not everything is critical, and not everything is normal. Recall that the severity attribute is a requirement in an event's definition. There is always a default severity associated with any event in OpenNMS. In general, that which generates the event notification to OpenNMS via a trap, syslog message, or through the command line can provide an event-specific severity. The indeterminate severity indicates that, by default, a severity cannot be associated with the event type. It might be appropriate for the event generator to provide the event's severity. Alarms are generated based on event criteria. Cleared is a severity assigned to an event by the OpenNMS alarms subsystem. Do not use this severity in event definitions. Rather, for those events meant to clear an alarm, use the severity normal. Normal can be used for events that do not require any attention. If an event does not require immediate attention, use the severity warning. Threshold violations might generate events at the warning level. Events which do not have an immediate effect on a service or a network device are associated the severity minor. These might include a failed relay channel or a failed voice port. For a particular system, power issues might require unordered shutdown. This is an example of a major event. The system or service is not down, but conditions exist which will bring the system or service down. Critical events can be found throughout the Linux syslog structure. At the device level, the failure of a Bluecoat SG device would be critical. Before beginning this introduction to send event.pl, note that all of the steps undertaken have already been performed for accuracy. One of the tools used to send events into OpenNMS is a command line script, send-event.pl. It is included in OpenNMS home/bin. Send-event.pl-help provides help for this command. This error indicates that a particular package is missing from the system. The message indicates that the missing package is a Perl package hostname.pl. That package can be installed by using dnf install perl-sys-hostname.x86_64. This sort of thing can happen when working with any product in any environment. The thing is to remain calm and actually read the error message. In this case, the issue was fairly straightforward. Once perl-sys-hostname has been installed, continue with the send event-help. In order to fit the output of this command on a single screen, pipe send-event.pl-help through the egrep command as shown. This will remove empty lines that take up space. Stepping through some of the options to send-event.pl, note that the UEI, Universal Event Identifier, is required. If the UEI is not already in the OpenNMS events configuration files, a default UEI will be used. The host:/port option is interesting. Remember that by default, OpenNMS is listening to the localhost interface only on port 5817. The node ID option is used to associate the event with a particular node based on the OpenNMS node ID. At this time, there is only one node in OpenNMS, the local host with a node ID of 1. The interface is used to associate the event with an IP address. At this time, there are only 2 IPv4 addresses on the system, 127.0.0.1 and 192.168.159.105. There is also an IPv6 address. One of the elements required in an event's definition was a description. Using DESCR, we can override the description in the event's definition. One of the elements required in an event's definition was log message. Using log message, we can override the log message in the event's definition. However, recall that the security element in eventconf.xml prevented log message from being overridden. One of the elements required in an event's definition was severity. Using severity, we can override the severity in the event's definition. Parameters can be sent with send-event.pl using --param and then in single quotes the variable and a space and a value. Parameters can help to further define the event. OpenNMS Carafe is the core runtime module that manages all other OpenNMS daemon services. In short, the OpenNMS Carafe shell can be used to access the configuration, status, or events in OpenNMS. It is accessed using SSH-P 8101 admin at localhost. Accept the authenticity of the connection, and localhost :8101 will be added to the user's list of known hosts. The admin password is the same as the admin password set from the OpenNMS webpage. Get a list of available OpenNMS commands by typing OpenNMS, press the Tab key, and hitting the Y key when prompted. The list of possibilities flyby. This module will make use of OpenNMS show-event-config. Help is available for any of these OpenNMS commands by typing, in this case, OpenNMS show-event-config -help. Help for this command indicates that the UEI is required. There has to be some UEI to look at. Look at the definition of the event uei.opennms.org/default/event. There is no need to go into this at this time. This has been done to demo the use of Carafe to view an OpenNMS event definition. The Carafe shell is exited with Ctrl-D. Coming up next in this module, sending and viewing events.